Hello folks, here's my second attempt at making a video, and as I promised, I'm going to share a little bit of what I do in watercoloring these ink pieces. It's always a bit of a balancing act because I spent so many weeks stippling in these leaves. I don't want to cover up all that delicate ink work. So though adding watercolor with a tremendous amount of water added to it is a little bit more free work than the stippling, it still requires a bit of a delicate hand and me sort of tapping color in. I happen to be using Strathmore Vellum Bristol paper. It's a cold press. It's about a 400-pound paper, so it's actually quite thick. And I do this so that this paint that I'm adding with water, I can actually tap away a little bit of it as I go. And that's just another way to control how much I'm putting down so that I don't cover up the ink work. The idea is that I want to enhance the detail as there, but I don't want to cover it up. I tend to accomplish this by putting the paint in layers, letting each layer sort of dry, and then adding another. And in this leaf here, I initially just took a lovely lime green and washed it over the whole leaf, and I let that completely dry. And now I'm coming back in with the same lime color, and I'm edging around the veining of this leaf. And by doing that, I'm sort of accentuating that center vein and all these side veins here to try to give you the appearance that you're looking at the back side of this leaf. I always prefer to work in natural light because I feel that best illuminates the specimen that I'm looking at. Also gives you an opportunity to look at that subject and really see how the light plays off and brings out very delicate coloring. And here you can see that there is that lime green, but then on the outer edges there's a darker, deeper green that I'll probably add in later on the leaves here that you see that you're looking at the front side. There's also some little interesting discolorations that are starting to happen because this specimen is older. But just because of the way I designed this piece, it's meant to be a more spring piece with flowers, obviously. So I'm going to stick to the standard lime and maybe a little bit of that darker green. The set of watercolors you see here is one that I've had for more than 20 years, which sort of expresses truly how very little watercolor it takes to add to these pieces. Because truly, the majority of the detail is in the ink. And I'm just enhancing it with the color. It's always sort of a interesting process to paint these pieces because I've spent weeks, in some cases months, doing this incredible detail work in dots. And now I'm at the point where you're seeing the piece all come together. What I imagined in my head coming to life. And even though I work from specimens, I think we're all, as artists, individually touched by certain aspects of things that we're looking at. And so my perspective might be different from someone else's. And when you spend weeks and months looking at a plant, you see little subtleties that maybe somebody just at a passing glance may not see. And I find those things that I love about whatever it is I'm working on, and I try to illuminate those through the inking and through the painting process. This is also very time-consuming, though certainly not as time-consuming as the ink work itself. But I imagine between layers of adding paint to this piece, it's going to take me another few days to get it done. It truly is important, if I am layering and I have to use a lot of water to accomplish a particular effect, that I let it completely dry so you can really see how that color is going to look before I come back in and add another color or another layer of the same color. I tend not to mix my colors. I tend to lay them out exactly as they are lined up in the palette, and then I tend to mix in the center here if I want to enhance that green a little bit, maybe add a little bit more green here, and come back. And I do this just a little bit at a time, because as I'm sitting here looking at this leaf and the morning light is starting to change, I start to see little new attributes, and I want to take those into account as I go along. So I don't want to restrict myself by mixing a whole bunch of one color. I'm constantly reevaluating and looking at what that light is doing to that leaf. And the nice thing about doing this with a cold pressed paper with a very smooth surface is it takes a few seconds for that paint to absorb into the paper. So if I want to come back in and touch an area that maybe I added just a bit too much color, I can actually remove it before it sets in. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed seeing a little bit of this process. I'm going to go ahead and let the camera run for just a few more minutes before I turn it off. I want to once again thank you for watching. And maybe I'll get ambitious and make another video of me painting that little hummingbird. But in the meantime, you can watch me paint this leaf a little bit more. I thank you so much for your time, and I wish you a beautiful day or night wherever you are in the world.